Book 3, Canto 8, The Legend of Britomartis. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please contact LibriVox.org. The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser. Book 3, The Legend of Britomartis, or of Chastity, Canto 8. The witch creates a snowy lady, like to Florimell, who, wronged by Carl, by Proteus saved, is sought by Paridel. So oft as I this history record, my heart doth melt with mere compassion, to think how causeless of her own accord this gentle damsel, whom I wrote upon, should plunged be in such affliction, without all hope of comfort or relief, that sure I ween the hardest heart of stone would hardly find to aggravate her grief. For misery craves rather mercy than reprief. But that accursed hag, her hostess late, had so enrankled her malicious heart, that she desired the abridgment of her fate, or long enlargement of her painful smart. Now when the beast, which by her wicked art late forth she sent, she back returning spied, tied with her broken girdle, it a part of her rich spoils, whom he had erst destroyed, she weened, and wondrous gladness to her heart applied. And with it running hastily to her son, thought with that sight him much to have relived, who thereby deeming sure the thing is done, his former grief with fury fresh revived, much more than erst, and would have algates rived the heart out of his breast. For sith her dead he surely dampt, himself he thought deprived quite of all hope, wherewith he long had fed his foolish malady, and long time had misled. With thought whereof exceeding mad he grew, and in his rage his mother would have slain, had she not fled into a secret mew, where she was wont her sprites to entertain the masters of her art. There was she fain to call them all in order to her aid, and them conjure upon eternal pain, to counsel her so carefully dismayed, how she might heal her son, whose senses were decayed. By their advice and her own wicked wit, she there devised a wondrous work to frame, whose like on earth was never framed yet, that even nature's self envied the same, and grudged to see the counterfeit should shame the thing itself. In hand she boldly took to make another, like the former dame, another Florimell, in shape and look so lively and so like, that many it mistook. The substance whereof she the body made was purest snow, in massy mould congealed, which she had gathered in a shady glade of the Riphean hills, to her revealed by errant sprites, but from all men concealed. The same she tempered with fine mercury and virgin wax, that never yet was sealed, and mingled them with perfect vermily, that like a lively sanguine it seemed to the eye. Instead of eyes, 2 burning lamps she set in silver sockets, shining like the skies, and a quick moving spirit did arret to stir and roll them, like a woman's eyes. Instead of yellow locks she did devise with golden wire to weave her curled head, yet golden wire was not so yellow thrice as Florimell's fair hair. And in the stead of life she put a sprite to rule the carcass dead, a wicked sprite yfraught with fawning guile, and fair resemblance above all the rest, which with the Prince of Darkness fell some while from heaven's bliss and everlasting rest. him needed not instruct, which way were best himself to fashion likest Florimell, ne how to speak, ne how to use his guest, for he in counterfeisance did excel, and all the wiles of women's wits knew passing well. Him shaped thus she decked in garments gay, which Florimell had left behind her late, that whoso then her saw would surely say it was herself whom it did imitate, or fairer than herself, if aught algate might fairer be. And then she forth her brought unto her son, that lay in feeble state, who seeing her gan straight upstart, and thought she was the lady's self whom he so long had sought. Though fast her clipping twixt his armes twain, extremely joyed in so happy sight, and soon forgot his former sickly pain. But she, the more to seem such as she hight, coyly rebutted his embracement light, yet still with gentle countenance retained enough to hold a fool in vain delight. Him long she so with shadows entertained, as her creatress had in charge to her ordained. Till on a day, as he disposed was to walk the woods with that his idol fair, her to disport, and idle time to pass in the open freshness of the gentle air, a knight that way there chanced to repair. Yet a knight he was not, but a boastful swain, that deeds of arms had ever in despair. Proud Braggadocchio, that in vaunting vain his glory did repose, and credit did maintain. He seeing with that churl so fair a wight, decked with many a costly ornament, much marvelled thereat, as well he might, and thought that match a foul disparagement. His bloody spear eftsoons he boldly bent against the silly clown, who dead through fear fell straight to ground in great astonishment. Villain, said he, this lady is my dear, die, if thou it gainsay, I will away her bear. The fearful churl durst not gainsay, nor do, but trembling stood and yielded him the prey, who finding little leisure to her woo, on Trumpert's steed her mounted without stay, and without rescue led her quite away. Proud man himself then Braggadocchio deemed, and next to none, after that happy day, being possessed of that spoil, which seemed the fairest wight on ground, and most of men esteemed. But when he saw himself free from pursuit, he gan make gentle purpose to his dame, with terms of love and lewdness dissolute. For he could well his glozing speeches frame to such vain uses that him best became. But she thereto would lend but light regard, as seeming sorry that she ever came into his power, that used her so hard, to reave her honour, which she more than life preferred. Thus as they two of kindness treated long, there them by chance encountered on the way an armed knight, upon a courser strong, whose trampling feet upon the hollow lay seemed to thunder, and did nigh affray that capon's courage. Yet he looked grim, in fain to cheer his lady in dismay, who seemed for fear to quake in every limb, and her to save from outrage meekly prayed him. Fiercely that stranger forward came, and nigh approaching, with bold words and bitter threat, bade that same boaster as he mote on high to leave to him that lady for excheat, or bide him battle without further treat. That challenge did too peremptory seem, and filled his senses with abashment great. Yet seeing nigh him jeopardy extreme, he it dissembled well, and light seemed to esteem, saying, Thou foolish knight, that ween'st with words to steal away that I with blows have won, and brought through points of many perilous swords. But if thee list to see thy courser run, or prove thyself, this sad encounter shun, and seek else without hazard of thy head. At those proud words that other knight begun to wax exceeding wroth, and him aread to turn his steed about, or sure he should be dead. Sith then, said Braggadocchio, needs thou wilt thy days abridge, through proof of puissance, turn we our steeds, that both in equal tilt may meet again, and each take happy chance. This said, they both a furlong's mountenance retired their steeds, to run in even race. But Braggadocchio with his bloody lance, once having turned, no more returned his face, but left his love to loss, and fled himself apace. The knight, him seeing fly, had no regard him to pursue, but to the lady rode, and having her from trumpart lightly reared, upon his courser set the lovely load, and with her fled away without abode. Well weened he that fairest Florimell it was, with whom in company he yode, and so herself did always to him tell, so made him think himself in heaven, that was in hell. But Florimell herself was far away, driven to great distress by fortune strange, and taught the careful mariner to play, sith late mischance had her compelled to change the land for sea, at randon there to range. Yet there that cruel queen avengeress, not satisfied so far her to estrange from courtly bliss and wonted happiness, did heap on her new waves of weary wretchedness. For being fled into the fisher's boat for refuge from the monstrous cruelty, long so she on the mighty main did float, and with the tide drove forward carelessly. For the air was mild, and cleared was the sky, and all his winds Dan Aeolus did keep from stirring up their stormy enmity, as pitying to see her wail and weep, but all the while the fisher did securely sleep. At last, when drunk with drowsiness he woke, and saw his drover drive along the stream, he was dismayed, and thrice his breast he stroke, for marvel of that accident extreme. But when he saw that blazing beauty's beam, which with rare light his boat did beautify, he marvelled more, and thought he yet did dream, not well awaked, or that some ecstasy assotted had his sense, or dazed was his eye. But when her well avising, he perceived to be no vision, nor fantastic sight, great comfort of her presence he conceived, and felt in his old courage new delight, to 'gin awake, and stir his frozen sprite. Though rudely asked how she thither came, "Ah," said she, "Father, I note read aright what hard misfortune brought me to the same. Yet am I glad that here I now in safety am. But thou, good man, sith far in sea we be, and the great waters gin apace to swell, that now no more we can the main land see, have care, I pray, to guide the cock boat well, least worse on sea than us on land befell." Thereat the old man did naught but fondly grin, and said, his boat the way could wisely tell, but his deceitful eyes did never lin to look on her fair face, and mark her snowy skin. The sight whereof in his congealed flesh infixed such secret sting of greedy lust, that the dry withered stock it gan refresh, and kindled heat that soon in flame forth brust. The driest wood is soonest burnt to dust. Rudely to her he leapt, and his rough hand, where ill became him, rashly would have thrust, but she with angry scorn him did withstand, and shamefully reproved for his rudeness fond. But he, that never good nor manners knew, her sharp rebuke full little did esteem. Hard is to teach an old horse amble true. The inward smoke, that did before but steam, broke into open fire and rage extreme. And now he strength gan add unto his will, forcing to do that did him foul misseem. Beastly he threw her down, ne cared to spill her garments gay with scales of fish, that all did fill. The silly virgin strove him to withstand all that she might, and him in vain reviled. She struggled strongly both with foot and hand, to save her honour from that villain viled, and cried to heaven from humane help exiled. O ye brave knights, that boast this lady's love, where be ye now, when she is nigh defiled of filthy wretch? Well may she you reprove of falsehood or of sloth, when most it may behove. But if that thou, Sir Satyrane, didst weet, or thou, Sir Peredur, her sorry state, how soon would ye assemble many a fleet, to fetch from sea that ye at land lost late? Towers, cities, kingdoms, ye would ruinate in your avengement and dispiteous rage. Nay, ought your burning fury mote abate, but if Sir Calidore could it presage, no living creature could his cruelty assuage. But sith that none of all her knights is nigh, see how the heavens of voluntary grace and sovereign favour towards chastity do succour send to her distressed case. So much high God doth innocence embrace. It fortuned, whiles thus she stiffly strove, and the wide sea importuned long space, with shrilling shrieks Proteus abroad did rove, along the foamy waves driving his finny drove. Proteus is shepherd of the seas of yore, and hath the charge of Neptune's mighty herd, an aged sire with head all frowry hoar, and sprinkled frost upon his dewy beard, who when those pitiful outcries he heard, through all the sea so ruefully resound, his chariot swift in haste he thither steered, which with a team of scaly Phocus bound was drawn upon the waves that formed him around. And coming to that fisher's wandering boat, that went at will withouten card or sail, he therein saw that irksome sight, which smote deep indignation and compassion frail into his heart at once. Straight did he hale the greedy villain from his hoped prey, of which he now did very little fail, and with his staff, that drives his herd astray, him bet so sore, that life and sense did much dismay. The whiles the piteous lady up did rise, ruffled and foully rayed with filthy soil, and blubbered face with tears of her fair eyes. Her heart nigh broken was with weary toil, to save herself from that outrageous spoil. But when she looked up to weet what wight had her from so infamous fact assoiled, for shame, but more for fear of his grim sight, down in her lap she hid her face, and loudly shright. Herself not saved yet from danger dread, she thought, but changed from one to other fear, like as a fearful partridge that is fled from the sharp hawk which her attached near, and falls to ground to seek for succour there, whereas the hungry spaniels she does spy, with greedy jaws her ready for to tear. In such distress and sad perplexity was Florimell, when Proteus she did see thereby. But he endeavour'd with speeches mild her to recomfort, and a courage bold, bidding her fare no more her foeman viled, nor doubt himself, and who he was her told. Yet all that could not from affright her hold, nay, to recomfort her at all prevailed, for her faint heart was with the frozen cold benumbed so inly, that her wits nigh failed, and all her senses with abashment quite were quailed. Her up betwixt his rugged hands he reared, and with his frowry lips full softly kissed, whiles the cold icicles from his rough beard dropped down upon her ivory breast. Yet he himself so busily addressed, that her out of astonishment he wrought, and out of that same fisher's filthy nest, removing her, into his chariot brought, and there with many gentle terms her fair besought. But that old lecher, which with bold assault that beauty durst presume to violate, he cast to punish for his heinous fault. Then took he him yet trembling sith of late, and tied behind his chariot to a grate the virgin, whom he had abused so sore. So dragged him through the waves in scornful state, and after cast him up upon the shore. But Florimell with him unto his bower he bore. His bower is in the bottom of the main, under a mighty rock, gainst which do rave the roaring billows in their proud disdain, that with the angry working of the wave therein is eaten out an hollow cave, that seems rough mason's hand with engines keen had long while laboured it to engrave. There was his one, ne living wight was seen, save one old nymph, hight Panopy, to keep it clean. Thither he brought the sorry Florimell, and entertained her the best he might, and Panopy her entertained eke well, as an immortal mote a mortal wight, to win her liking unto his delight. With flattering words he sweetly wooed her, and offered fair gifts to lure her sight. But she both offers and the offerer despised, and all the fawning of the flatterer. Daily he tempted her with this or that, and never suffered her to be at rest, but evermore she him refused flat, and all his feigned kindness did detest. So firmly she had sealed up her breast. Sometimes he boasted that a god he hight, but she a mortal creature loved best. Then he would make himself a mortal wight, but then she said she loved none but a fairy knight. Then like a fairy knight himself he dressed, for every shape on him he could endue. Then like a king he was to her expressed, and offered kingdoms unto her in view, to be his leman and his lady true. But when all this he nothing saw prevail, with harder means he cast her to subdue, and with sharp threats her often did assail, so thinking for to make her stubborn courage quail. To dreadful shapes he did himself transform, now like a giant, now like to a fiend, then like a centaur, then like to a storm raging within the waves. Thereby he weaned her will to win unto his wished end. But when with fear, nor favour, nor with all he else could do, he saw himself esteemed down in a dungeon deep, he let her fall, and threatened there to make her his eternal thrall. Eternal thraldom was to her more lief than loss of chastity or change of love. Die had she rather in tormenting grief, than any should of falseness her reprove, or looseness, that she lightly did remove. Most virtuous Virgin, glory be thy meed, and crown of heavenly praise with saints above, where most sweet hymns of this thy famous deed are still amongst them song, that far my rhymes exceed. Fit song of angels carolled to be, but yet whatso my feeble muse can frame shall be t'advance thy goodly chastity, and to enroll thy memorable name in the heart of every honourable dame, that they thy virtuous deeds may imitate, and be partakers of thy endless fame. It irks me leave thee in this woeful state, to tell of Satyrane, where I left him of late, who having ended with that squire of dames a long discourse of his adventures vain, the which himself then ladies more defames, and finding not the hyena to be slain, with that same squire returned back again to his first way. And as they forward went, they spied a knight fair pricking on the plain, as if he were on some adventure bent, and in his port appeared manly hardiment. Sir Satyrane him towards did address, to weet what wight he was, and what his quest. And coming nigh, eftsoons he gan to guess, both by the burning heart which on his breast he bare, and by the colours in his crest, that Peridel it was. Though to him yode, and him saluting, as beseemed best, gan first enquire of tidings far abroad, and afterwards on which adventure now he rode. Who thereto answering said, the tidings bad, which now in Faerie Court all men do tell, which turned hath great mirth to mourning sad, is the late ruin of proud Marinell, and sudden parture of fair Florimell, to find him forth. And after her are gone all the brave knights that do'n in arms excell, to save guard her. I wandered all alone, amongst the rest my lot unworthy is to be won. Ah, gentle knight, said then Sir Satyrane, thy labour all is lost. I greatly dread that hast a thankless service on thee ta'en, and offerest sacrifice unto the dead. For dead, I surely doubt, thou mayst arede henceforth forever Florimell to be, that all the noble knights of maidenhead, which her adored, may sore repent with me, and all fair ladies may for ever sorry be. Which words when Peridel had heard, his hue gan greatly change, and seemed dismayed to be. Then said, fair sir, how may I ween it true, that ye do tell in such uncertainty? Or speak ye of report, or did ye see just cause of dread, that makes ye doubt so sore? For perdie, else how mote it ever be, that ever hand should dare for to engore her noble blood? The heavens such cruelty abhor. These eyes did see, that they will ever rue they've seen, quoth he, when as a monstrous beast the palfrey, whereon she did travel, slew, and of his bowels made his bloody feast, which speaking token sheweth at the least her certain loss, if not her sure decay. Besides, that more suspicion increased, I found her golden girdle cast astray, distained with dirt and blood as relic of the prey. Ay me, said Peridel, the signs be sad, and but God turn the same to good soothsay, that lady's safety is sore to be dread. Yet will I not forsake my forward way, till trial do more certain truth bewray. Fair sir, quoth he, well may it you succeed, ne long shall Satyrane behind you stay, but to the rest, which in this quest proceed, my labour add, and be partaker of their speed. Ye noble knights, said then the squire of dames, well may ye speed in so praiseworthy pain. But sith the sun now 'gins to slake his beams in dewy vapours of the western main, and lose the team out of his weary wain, mote not mislike you also to abate your zealous haste till morrow next again both light of heaven and strength of men relate, which if ye please to yonder castle turn your gate. That counsel pleased well, so all y-fere forth marched to a castle than before, where soon arriving they restrained were of ready entrance, which ought evermore to errant knights be common. Wondrous sore thereat displeased they were, till that young squire gan them inform the cause, why that same door was shut to all, which lodging did desire, the which to let you weet will further time require. End of Canto 8, Book 3. The Legend of Britomartis, or of Chastity, the Faerie Queene, by Edmund Spenser.